Hey guys, what's happening? So we are back for more Peter David Symbiote Spider-Man 2099, where now Miguel O'Hara has agreed to team up with his brother, Kron Stone, who as you already know is Venom 2099. So yeah, Miguel's new symbiote and team up. It's about to get the attention of some significant players in this universe. And for anyone who's just hopping in here, I got a playlist in the description that'll get you caught up to this point, as well as a link at the end of the video that'll loop you right back around to the beginning. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, make sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications so we can squat up in the comments for the first hour. Alright, so coming back, we pick up at the point where Miguel had just made the decision to accept Kron's offer to join him as a symbiote duo so that he'll leave Alchemax and spare Conchata, as well as Tyler Stone. And much like we saw leading up to this point, Miguel's new symbiote was on board with this, since it already embraced violence prior to Miguel bonding to it, but this put Miguel in a tough position, where he had to make an agreement with his symbiote and with Kron. So even with Miguel agreeing to join Kron, he's still standing firm on his rule of no killing unless he says so. So of course, with there now being two symbiotes in the Alchemax building that everyone's aware about now, this now just has all the public eye officers freaking out. Cause for a moment here, we see a couple of them who are like, God knows what kind of destruction they're up to. But when we jump back to Miguel and Kron, these guys are just casually taking the elevator while talking about the music that's playing. Cause again, for Venom 2099, for Kron Stone, he just found out that him and Miguel are brothers. So in a way for him, this is kind of a special moment. But at the same time, he wants to see if Miguel and his new symbiote are going to show their teeth, so to speak, and really get on board with the chaos that Kron wants to bring. And as soon as they step out of the elevator, they're more or less given that opportunity as they're met by a group of public eye officers. But just before Kron is able to tear into these guys, Miguel reminds him that he agreed to no killing, not unless he says it's okay. So Kron is just more or less like, okay, fine. And he agrees to go easy on these guys. So he turns his blade back into a fist, and he just punches the guy instead of stabbing him. But at the same time, with how hard this punch looks, I'm not really sure how much better that was, or if you can even consider this taking it easy. But following this, because Alchemax has held Venom before, the public eye officers now have weapons to combat him. So following Venom's attack, he's hit with a beta blaster, which is pretty much a sonic gun, so it's able to stop Venom in his tracks. And even though Miguel's symbiote wasn't hit directly with it, it's affected by the sonics too. So right here it just begs Miguel to make the exception and destroy these guys, to just cut loose and end them, telling Miguel it's the only way. So Miguel quickly incapacitates them. He doesn't kill him, so now him and Kron can make their escape. But for a moment here, Kron's like, yeah, that's a good start. Go ahead and finish him. But Miguel just like, no, they're incapacitated, that's enough. And just before they leave, Kron tells Miguel, thanks brother. And for a moment here, Kron's like, brother, I like the sound of that, cause this is still new to him. But for Miguel, who's always had his younger brother Gabriel, he's more or less like, it ain't that deep. And speaking of Miguel's younger brother Gabriel, that's who we head over to next. Cause right now he's on the holo with their mother, Conchata, who's reaching out to tell Gabe how his brother Miguel's been taken over by a symbiote, and how he's now running around with Kron Stone like brothers, because they actually are brothers. So she's reaching out to tell Gabe that we gotta do something. And Gabriel just goes off, because right here this is him finding out that Miguel's actual father is Tyler Stone, which gives Kron and Miguel both of the same parents. So Gabriel just looks at it like, oh, so Kron's his real brother, since Gabe's father is George O'Hara, which as we knew before makes Gabe his half brother. And I mean, the way I see it, a brother's a brother, but at the same time you can't be mad at Gabriel for having this bombshell dropped on him. And even for a moment here, when Conchata tries to tell Gabriel to calm down, he tells her, no, I'm not calming down. And she tells him, Gabriel, I've lost a son today. I can't bear the thought of losing another. And he tells her, well, maybe you should have thought of that before you screwed around on my father. Which, woo, man. I mean, what's she gonna say to that? Cause I mean, we knew for the longest time, the situation between Miguel, Gabriel, and Kron Stone was a bit of a messy one, with Conchata having multiple kids by another man. But also in addition to that, Gabriel already didn't care much for Miguel, cause eventually he found out Miguel was sleeping with his ex, Dana D'Angelo, which is why Gabriel broke up with her prior to her untimely death. So yeah, this family's got some issues. But after Gabriel says this to Conchata, he ends the call, because he just can't be bothered. To where next as we head back over to Kron and Miguel as they make their escape from Alchemax. Now that they're free, it's here where Kron tells Miguel that they can do what they want and take whatever they want. But now that they've arrived at this part of Kron's plan, When he asks Miguel what does he want to do first, Miguel's just like, I don't know, cause prior to this, all Miguel has really thought about is what he didn't want, which for starters was the pressure that came along with being the head of Alchemax, where aside from being Spider-Man, he has everyone at the company looking to him, expecting Miguel to tell them what to do, coming to him for every solution, and it's not like Miguel hadn't been stepping up to the responsibility, he has. But it was like everyone's individual priority was more important than the next, so whenever he came up with a solution that didn't completely cater to any one person, Miguel's suggestion or answer just wasn't deemed to be good enough. So again, for Miguel, for the most part, he had just been thinking about what he didn't want, and on the top of that list was being head of Alchemax. So the only thing he could come up with now is just the idea of being left alone. And just as a reminder, even though Tyler Stone is over at Alchemax right now, ready to take that burden off of Miguel's hands, there's a part of Miguel that also knows that he shouldn't hand that position back to him. So now with Miguel telling Kron that he doesn't know what he wants, or even just saying that he wants to be left alone, Kron's like, that's it? And he gets worked up. But when he puts his hands on Miguel, Miguel hits Kron with his Venom, which is something new that we're seeing from Symbiote Spider-Man 2099, and it's kinda nasty. But as soon as this happens, it's right here where we're hit with a curveball, as they're met by the arrival of Strange, who is the Sorcerer Supreme of 2099. And as it turns out, she's made her way here in her astral form, after sensing Spider-Man was in trouble. So at first Miguel's like, hey, don't even start with the illusions. So she just lets him know that this is simply her just coming in this form to check on him. So Miguel tells her he's good, he doesn't need her help, which then has Kron telling Strange, like, you heard the guy, beat it. So Strange tells Kron that she's not taking orders from the likes of him. So he looks her in the eye and he tells her, you're not scared of me. Which again, for her, he's not much of a threat since this is just her astral form. So Kron looks at Miguel and he's like, hey, you know where she live, right? And Miguel's like, I do. So Kron looks back at Strange and he's like, we'll see you shortly. Which right there just has Strange like, oh crap, this is bad. This is very bad. So right away, she leaves the sanctum to seek help from another powerful sorcerer who's also a very predominant political figure. And as she leaves, we also see that someone was waiting outside the sanctum for an opportunity to make their way in. But little does this surprise guest know that she was expecting Symbiote Spider-Man 2099 and Venom 2099. But on their way to the sanctum, there's a moment where Kron asks Miguel how he plans to handle Strange. So Miguel tells him we're gonna make her afraid, which for Kron, like we saw before, this leans more into the talk that he wanted to hear. Cause on one hand, he feels like Miguel's coming around and becoming the evil little brother he always wanted, but at the same time to himself, he's thinking like, yeah, when we get there, I'm gonna crank this up a little bit. But of course, when they make their way inside, they run into Vulture 2099. Who right away recognizes Venom, but he's not sure exactly what to make of the new Symbiote Spider-Man. And the funny thing is, when Kron and Miguel make their way here and they see that it's Vulture, Miguel is just like, whew, finally, somebody whose life I don't have to worry about. And for a moment here, his symbiote is like, you really mean it? And Miguel's just like, yeah, the Vulture is a cannibalistic monster. I don't give a damn what you do to him, which is exactly what his symbiote wanted to hear. But for the Vulture, who's really just here to steal a couple things, he tells these guys like, hey man, this is just a robbery. There's plenty here for everyone. But of course, they're not trying to hear that. So they both go after the Vulture on sight. But the Vulture's smart about this, because as soon as the two of them come after him, they web up his wings, so he rips out of them, and he takes the first opportunity to get out of there. Which again is a smart move, because the last thing he was expecting was to go up against this team up. But following this, we catch up with Strange, who, like we saw before, she'd made her way out of the sanctum to seek out the help of another sorcerer who could step in and handle the new Spider-Man. And for a moment here, she even shows this mysterious figure a projection of Spider-Man both before and after, while telling him that Spider-Man is way more dangerous than before. And it's here where we discover that this mysterious figure who she's come to for help just happens to be Doom 2099. Who, in his case, I feel like he had to show up in this story at some point, since Doom 2099 became the president around the time that we're revisiting in this story, so it makes sense that he'd show up, with us going back to the retelling of the events that took place on Earth 928. So yeah, with Strange coming here, Doom 2099 lets her know that she's come to the right place. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support, and for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/DopeSpill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.